So when you're setting up group online training, you've got to have one market and one goal. And you could absolutely have two different groups for two different markets and two different goals, but you will become much less efficient, and particularly if you have any group chats or like group communities or forums or anything like that, if you have two people working towards two different goals, it creates a lot of issues and frictions within the communication, and people perhaps not willing to be honest and forthcoming with information within the forum because there's somebody else there who they wouldn't be able to connect with. So the first thing is, what's the market, what's the goal? Because once you understand the market and the goal, you've got a pretty good idea of the type of people it's for, the type of people it's not for, the type of program you need to build, the length of time, and then as you go deeper, you can start to figure out what are their inner dialogues. Why do they want to do this? What type of person do they want to become as a result of doing this program? And that, of course, goes into your marketing, but it also goes into your programming and your coaching as well. As trainers, we often are pretty separate from this because we really like fitness. We really like to be in the gym. I mean, I'm somebody who loves to hate it, right? I do it, but I like to make fun of myself for doing it because I think it's weird. And the reality of it is the majority of your clients aren't going to like going to the gym. So like, what do they like to do? What do they not like to do? What are they willing to sacrifice or not sacrifice to get to whatever their goal is? Like, it's not necessarily the absolute best thing to do, right? It's the best thing for that client. So you don't know that until you know the market and the goal. From there, you're going to be able to build a single templated program. Now, I get a lot of kickback when I recommend templates for programs. The reality of it is, if you know your market, you know their starting point, and the commonalities amongst the starting point in your market, you know where they want to go and why they want to go and all of the reasons what they can do and what they can't do. And you take a lot of time to build the absolute best template for whatever, 4, 8, 12, 16 weeks of training for that client. It actually is logically the best thing to do is to start with a single best template for everybody. Because if you were to build a completely unique program for every single client, by definition, you would be building the second best program for that client type if you were to start from scratch each time. If you've taken enough time to build the best program for that client to get to their goals, you don't want to build another one from scratch because that would be the second best one, right? You build a template, you continue to improve upon that template as it gets better, and then as clients come in, you have an intake for every single client. Ideally, you're going to get pretty good at this intake, what types of questions you ask and how you're going to alter the template based off of that. Because if you can build this into a sort of algorithm, which is the idea once you have a bit more experience, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to hire in more people also to like help you do this. You don't necessarily need to be the one altering every program, which is a great way to begin delegating work. But the idea is you have an intake and then you actually individualize the programming to every person based off of that intake. And maybe you'll get on the phone with one person quick if you have some questions or whatever it is, but if you start with a template, you can individualize it really easily. If you start with nothing, it's going to be a complete crapshoot. Some people might do good if you're feeling good. Some people might not get a good program if you're not feeling good that day when you're writing the program. Like, you want to leave as little up to chance as possible. Next up, create a common FAQ. It's the easiest thing to do. Every time you get asked a question, answer the question to that person, but also write the question in a general sense so that anybody who starts the program now has this list of questions and answers, right? That becomes an IP asset that you create. And then the question of whether or not to build a group community is always a good question. And it's one I think a lot about. For most people, for most types of markets, I actually don't think that a group community is a very good thing. I mean, we have enough communities, particularly enough online communities these days. Like, ain't nobody wants to be in another Facebook group right now. If you're trying to host your community on like a software, nobody wants another software program that they have to go in and check. In addition, particularly if you're just starting, I mean, if you know that you can get 50 or 100 people in a group coaching program, that's different. But particularly if you're just starting, like, your community is going to be pretty quiet, which is not fun for anybody. And the optics are just really, really bad for you. But also, like, it's just not a good feel. It sucks the energy out. And so I love the idea of a group chat. You can use a messaging function like a WhatsApp or whatever if everybody has it, or you can use a more encrypted one like a Telegram or a Signal. And what's really neat about that is you can create a group chat with all of your people, but you can also have individual chats with every single one, or you can send a message to a group at once, but it goes out individually to them, and then they can respond individually back to you if they want to. So it's a way to basically provide it's a way to make individual support a lot more efficient in a group. That's the kind of nuts and bolts of setting up group online training. The main idea is it starts with one market, one goal. From there, everything kind of starts to fall into place, right? You build a template for that goal. You understand what the questions are they're going to ask. You build an FAQ. You've got an intake that everybody goes in that you can individualize the template and the training. And then you have some sort of support system. And like I said, I recommend for almost every market, some sort of a group chat or even an individual chat where you can send out group broadcasted messages to them and they respond individually, versus like a forum or community that often becomes really quiet and does more harm than good.